Hey guys, Cerealkiler back again with another video for you. This time we're going to be doing TOA 90. This floor was by far the hardest floor for me. I failed a few floors in TOA a couple times. I failed this floor a solid 7 or 8 times probably. This right here is kind of my default starting TOA team, and then I kind of adjust as needed based on what happens in the floor. I've tried this probably 7 or 8 times with variances in the team. I finally got it done on my first attempt was a kill, and then I ended up recording it a second time and screwing up the recording. So this will be my third attempt, and if I get it here, this will be 3 successful attempts in a row with this team. Lots of stuff is happening in this team for specific reasons. But the shining star here is this Colleen. I think this is the first time I've ever taken Colleen into TOA, and she does splendidly. Now, a lot of these people are in here for obvious reasons. The Baretta is in here because he's Baretta and it works really well. The Basalt is same kind of deal. Same thing with Veromos. The Bella actually came in and out of a lot of my teams. A couple of my teams, I had decided that healing through all that damage was just not possible. Screw it. Just try to crowd control or debuff everything into oblivion. Which Fire Freed I tried a couple times. Did not work so well for me. Once I kind of switched away from that and changed the way things were set up a little bit, I decided that instead of abandoning all hopes of healing it, I was just going to stack healers super crazy, debuff them super crazy, and it actually works really well. As far as the debuff, that's where Colleen comes in. I've got a couple options for people with attack breaks. Colleen, A, is just really nice. B, she's another healer. She's decently fast. She's the right element to not get abused by the boss stage. And she has a spammable attack break on her auto attack, and she's on violence. So it ends up working out really well for me. If you've got a Brian, that is a monster I would have loved to have brought in here. Maybe a Fedora or a Dias as well. Unfortunately, I have neither of them. My Sigmaris is just way too squishy to be like on the same screen as those wind monkeys. Just not an okay option. Tried it, terrible, don't try it. So we'll get to that a little bit more when we get to the actual guy. You're seeing me clean up the trash right here, and I will note this trash has some kill potential. I definitely failed a couple times on a fluke on this first wave right here, and it was just because one of the guys got an armor break off, and then it happened that the fire liches procced a bunch of times in a row and went crazy and killed everything. The fire liches are really the only threat there, and that's because they can be crowd controlled, but because of their passive, they can escape crowd control kind of before you're really ready for it, so they become really hard to crowd control. With Once I started bringing Colleen in and you just spread the attack break cancer all over the place, that first wave becomes much nicer. So highly advise the Colleen for the boss stage, and she's going to help a lot on that first stage. Throw an attack break on the fire guys, and doesn't matter as much if they proc and get something off on you. You will want to try to keep the fire guys stunned constantly, even though they're going to be popping out of it with their passive a lot. And then when all the fire guys are stunned, feel free to stun the dark guys. I killed the dark guys last. That does let them build their passive up, but every time you kill a fire lich, drastically increases the amount of stun chances or debuff chances you have on the other liches, just because the fire guys take so much more effort to stun or debuff because they're proccing out of your debuffs constantly with their passive. Now, this floor, much more straightforward. Luckily, not quite as scary as it looks like at first glance. I say that as my Colleen just gets mangled. But and that's because she's a Colleen and she's just getting focused by these two Sigmarises, which thankfully really don't hit that hard, considering the first couple times I came in here, my first priority would have been to debuff and stun those Sigmarises, thinking that they were going to murder the Baretta or the Colleen. after doing it a few waves, I realized they really don't hit that hard. I'm more or less ignoring them. And yes, they are taking the Colleen down, but I've got four healers in here, or three healers in here, and stuns and attack bar stuff out the ass. Like, I'm not worried about the Colleen dying. I don't think I had any failures on this second wave out of all my attempts. But basically, what you're going to want to do, if you have a Brian or any non-Colleen attack breaker, probably want to attack break the Sigmaruses. I didn't want to waste my time trying to glance into a Sigmarus when I had the perfectly acceptable Dark Taoist to attack break. So I focused on doing that with my Colleen. But this stage is more of just kind of a time burner, in my opinion. You got those self-buffing Dark Taoists that can take a little while to take out, but no real big threat. Not going to spend too much time on that. Here is the substance of our video, and this is where all the scariness happens. This first couple stages, or the first couple moves, is where the biggest kill potential is, in my opinion, because you don't have anything debuffed yet. Once you get in a few turns and kind of get everything stable, then it's a lot more user friendly. Right now, or at least in the very beginning, nothing's debuffed, so the wrong proc on some counterattacks is very bad news. Now, what I'm doing for a tactics here is kind of, well, there's a lot of points to it, but one thing, I want to keep as much stuff attack broken as possible. I want to keep as much stuff stunned as possible, and I want to let 0 light yetis get a turn. I do fail to do that because of, well, there's one right there, but it's not the wind monkeys and the light archangels. They kill you with 4 million revenge procs. They don't kill you, quote unquote, on their turn. It's the light yetis getting a turn that allows them to cast that buff that really causes problems. So you want the light yetis stunned or taunted every turn. I would much rather stun a light yeti and prevent it from getting a turn than stunning a wind monkey or a light archangel, even though it's the wind monkey and the light archangels that usually end up doing most of the problem, in my opinion. So you want to keep the light archangels or the light yetis from getting a turn as much as possible. You want to keep the attack buff off of people as fast as possible if you do fail, and let it get on them. You want to keep both the wind monkeys attack broken as much as possible, and then you want to keep the light archangel armor broken as much as possible. His damage scales off his defense, so armor breaking him, you'll see me armor break this light archangel constantly, but I'm not even hitting him. I'm armor breaking him to lower his damage. I don't care about doing damage to him. I'm going to kill everything else and then do him last. Something else to kind of notice when you're picking your target, you see like right there, luckily the Basalt had an armor break on him, or an armor buff on him, but he just attacked and then got counterattacked by the light yeti who had the buff, the wind monkey who had the passive, and the light archangel who had a passive. If you attack the, say, light archangel when you have a buffed yeti up, the yeti can counterattack you and the wind monkey can attack you. If you hit one of the wind monkeys, that wind monkey, the one you hit, will not counterattack you. So the wind monkeys are actually the safer targets in the beginning when there's a bunch of stuff up, because you actually lower one possible counterattack. If you keep the buff off both the yetis and you keep a wind monkey stunned, then you can hit the other wind monkey and you only get counterattacked by the light archangel. I'm not able to keep that scenario up the whole time. I just try to keep it as close to that as possible. And you see me do a fairly terrible job, actually, of keeping these light yetis from going. They're just too fast, and I'm actually getting some relatively bad procs on stuff to keep them stunned constantly. They've gotten this buff off a few times now. We're about to see the turning point. That monkey's about to die, and there he goes. He had very low life and unhealable on him, so it would have actually been nice if I got the light archangel to try to heal him first. But once one of them dies and I'm in a really good spot, my Talc or my Basalt's a little bit low, but I'm not too worried about it. From here, it's pretty much a win. once one of them dies, it's so exponential how much they hurt. And now you see my basalt's really low. I might actually lose the basalt and then have it be a 4v4, but I'm not worried about that at all. With them in this position, basalt can die right now, which I just got a super full heal out of him. Basalt could have died, and we were at a point in the stage where we could have 4v4'd it, no problem. They're about to lose a second wind monkey. Once the two wind monkey drop, and you're not having to try to debuff them, it becomes much easier to debuff the light yetis. Aside from the fact that once the wind monkeys are dead, then it's a lot less scary if the light yetis get their buff up. And that wind monkey is on a death sentence unless Artie heals him, and Artie's shit's on cooldown, so that's not going to happen. So I'm just going to ignore the wind monkey and try to get some taunts spread out on these light yetis, because it's pretty much one now, but there's still no point in testing fate. So I don't want the light yetis to get a turn if I don't have to. And that right one should be dead. Left one's not quite dead, so I'm gonna keep tickling him, and still don't think he's dead. Maybe I get a taunt on him. Yeah, I can't decide to taunt or defense buff. Both would put me in a pretty good spot, but now he's dead, and at this point we can start doing our victory dance. From here, it's completely manageable. Him by himself is not doing anything. He is probably the scariest part of this, but he's actually the easiest part to kind of bypass. Putting an armor break on him drastically lowers his damage output. The wind monkeys, I would say, maybe aren't quite as deadly, like just each one of them, as the light archangel, but there's two of them, and then they, in my opinion, getting killed by a wind monkey early on in the fight is kind of where things start to go downhill. You want to get a wind monkey dead and basically be, full health in a nice, really good spot, and then you can pretty much go, hey, this thing's won. Because as soon as you kind of tip that scale over, they just all their passives and their buffs stack so well on one another. As soon as you remove one of those, even if you killed a yeti or something else first, it just becomes way easier at that point. The main reason I go for a wind monkey instead of a light yeti first, because the wind monkey, if you're hitting a wind monkey, that lowers one guy that's going to counterattack you, so it's safer. Now, I'm going to go through the runes on all my monsters relatively slow. I'll let you see their main stats and their 2, 4, 6, and then you can go ahead and pause or rewind it if you want to get a closer bit. I'll show you all 5 of the ones I used tonight, and then I will also show you a shiny little toy I just got. Probably going to force me to make another Fayman farming video, because I got one of the queens, if you will, of Fayman farming. I got me this little shiny, pretty sexy water polar queen. I didn't have good runes for her. I got her post rune day, so I couldn't go Rage Blade like I wanted to. She ended up, actually the nicest stats I could get her was a vampire set, so she ended up on vampire. And I got her out of the legendary scroll for TOA 100. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. Go ahead and have a good night. Please like, subscribe, and comment below. I will get back to you. Thanks guys.